What if one of the greatest detective films ever made was actually Hollywood's third attempt, and almost never happened? One actor's rejection, an inexperienced director, and a series of risky decisions somehow created a movie that changed cinema forever. Before we uncover its biggest secrets, let's go back to where the legend truly began. The 15th secret is that the Maltese Falcon was actually the third film adaptation of the same novel. Most movie fans assume the 1941 version was the original, but Warner Brothers had already adapted Dashiell Hammett's famous novel twice before. The first version premiered in 1931, while another remake followed in 1936 under the title Satan Met a Lady, transforming the dark detective story into a light-hearted comedy. Neither film captured audiences or critics. By the time Warner Brothers considered adapting the novel again, many believed the story had already failed on the big screen. Ironically, that Last Chance remake would become one of the most influential crime films ever made. The 14th secret is that director John Huston created a masterpiece on his very first directing job. Before the Maltese Falcon, Huston was respected as a talented screenwriter, but had never directed a feature film. Instead of trying to reinvent the story, he made a bold decision: stay remarkably faithful to the original novel. Much of the dialogue was lifted almost word for word from Hammett's book, giving the film a sharp, intelligent rhythm that still feels modern today. For a first-time director, it was an astonishing display of confidence. The 13th secret is that Huston carefully planned nearly every single shot before filming even began. Long before cameras rolled, he sketched detailed storyboards showing camera angles, actor positions, and scene compositions. At a time when few directors prepared this extensively, Huston's meticulous planning allowed the production to move efficiently while creating the film's distinctive visual style. Decades later, filmmakers would study his methods as an example of disciplined storytelling. The 12th secret is that Humphrey Bogart wasn't supposed to play Sam Spade. Warner Brothers originally wanted established star George Raft for the role, but Raft refused to appear in a film directed by an untested newcomer. That single decision unexpectedly opened the door for Bogart, who accepted the role without knowing it would completely transform his career. The 11th secret is that this film turned Humphrey Bogart into a Hollywood legend. Before the Maltese Falcon, Bogart was largely known for playing gangsters and supporting villains. But his cool, intelligent, and morally complex performance as private detective Sam Spade revealed an entirely different side of his talent. Overnight, audiences saw him as leading man material. That breakthrough paved the way for classics like Casablanca and The Big Sleep, securing his place as one of the greatest stars in cinema history. The 10th secret is that Sydney Greenstreet had never appeared in a motion picture before this film. Believe it or not, the imposing actor who played the unforgettable Caspar Gutman, better known as the Fat Man, was making his screen debut at the age of 61. Before Hollywood discovered him, Greenstreet had spent decades performing on the stage. Despite having no film experience, his commanding presence, booming voice, and effortless charisma immediately captivated audiences. His performance was so remarkable that he earned an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor, making one of the most impressive film debuts in Hollywood history. The 9th secret is that Peter Lorre helped create one of cinema's most unforgettable villains. Although John Huston's screenplay laid the foundation, much of Joel Cairo's distinctive personality came directly from Lorre himself. His voice, nervous smile, strange mannerisms, and unsettling calm transformed the character into someone audiences could never quite trust. Instead of relying on physical strength, Lorre built suspense through subtle expressions and unpredictable behavior. His performance proved that a truly memorable villain doesn't have to shout or fight. Sometimes is far more frightening. The eighth secret is that Mary Astor was battling one of Hollywood's biggest scandals while filming. Only a few years earlier, her bitter divorce and the publication of her private diary had become front-page news across America. Many insiders believed her career was finished. But Warner Brothers took the risk of casting her as the mysterious Bridget O'Shaughnessy. Astor rewarded that confidence with a brilliantly layered performance, constantly shifting between innocence, vulnerability, and manipulation. Her portrayal became one of the earliest and most influential examples of the classic femme fatale, a character type that would define film noir for decades. The seventh secret is that the filmmakers had to cleverly outsmart Hollywood's strict censorship rules. During the 1940s, the Hays Code prohibited filmmakers from openly depicting homosexuality or many forms of adult subject matter. Several characters in Dashiell Hammett's novel contained traits that simply couldn't be shown on screen. Rather than removing those elements entirely, John Huston buried them beneath subtle dialogue, suggestive body language, and carefully directed performances. The censors approved the film, but many viewers still understood the hidden meanings, making the storytelling even more sophisticated. The sixth secret is that the Maltese Falcon helped establish the visual style that would define film noir forever. John Huston experimented with dramatic low-angle shots, heavy shadows, cramped interiors, and carefully balanced compositions to create a constant feeling of danger and uncertainty. Every frame seemed to remind viewers that nobody could be trusted. At the time, this visual approach felt bold and unconventional. Within just a few years, countless crime films were borrowing the same techniques. More than 80 years later, its influence can still be seen in detective movies, psychological thrillers, and modern neo-noir films around the world. The fifth secret is that the film uses almost no background music. Unlike many Hollywood productions of its era, The Maltese Falcon rarely relies on a sweeping musical score to tell viewers how they should feel. Instead, John Huston trusted the performances, sharp dialogue, and carefully controlled silence to build suspense. Every pause in a conversation, every footstep across a room, and every suspicious glance became part of the tension. That restraint makes the film feel surprisingly modern even today, allowing the mystery to unfold naturally without emotional manipulation. The fourth secret is that the famous Maltese Falcon barely appears on screen. It's remarkable that the object everyone is chasing is visible for only a handful of scenes. For most of the film, audiences hear characters talking about the legendary black bird far more often than they actually see it. Huston understood that mystery is often more powerful than constant exposure. By keeping the statue hidden until the story's climax, he transformed it into one of cinema's greatest examples of the unseen prize, an object whose legend grows larger simply because it remains just out of reach. The third secret is that the ending shocked audiences in 1941. Instead of rescuing the woman he had fallen for, Private Detective Sam Spade made a heartbreaking decision. Even after discovering Bridget O'Shaughnessy's deception, he admitted that he cared about her. Yet he still handed her over to the police, believing that justice mattered more than love. At a time when Hollywood audiences expected romantic endings, this morally uncompromising conclusion felt daring and unforgettable. It was one of the earliest examples of a hero choosing principle over personal happiness. The second secret is that this film became the blueprint for the entire film noir genre. While crime movies certainly existed before 1941, The Maltese Falcon brought together all the elements that would define noir for decades. The cynical private detective, the mysterious femme fatale, morally conflicted characters, shadow-filled cinematography, and a world where greed and betrayal outweighed trust. Countless classics, from Double Indemnity to Chinatown, would borrow ideas first perfected here, making its influence nearly impossible to overstate. The first secret is that The Maltese Falcon remains one of the most respected films ever preserved in American cinema. In 1989, it was selected for preservation in the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress, recognizing its extraordinary cultural, historical, and artistic importance. More than 8 decades after its release, critics, filmmakers, and movie lovers still celebrate it as one of the greatest detective films ever made. What began as Warner Brothers' third attempt to adapt a seemingly unlucky novel ultimately became the film that changed noir forever, a timeless masterpiece whose legacy continues to inspire every generation of storytellers. More than 80 years after its release, The Maltese Falcon remains the gold standard for detective films and film noir. Which secret surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more incredible stories from Hollywood's greatest classics.